My name's Gareth Jones. I'm from Kalsec Inc. Kalsec is an American company. It's privately owned, was founded in 1958. And Kalsec is short for the Kalamazoo Spice Extraction Company. We're based in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is halfway between Detroit and Chicago. And we do a whole range of spice and herb extracts, but the ones I'm really interested in talking to you today about are our rosemary solutions. 2020 was a very difficult year for a lot of people, but for Kalsec, we were very proud in 2020 to be successful in gaining our benefit corporation certification. So that was a big win for us. And also, as we grow about 2/3 of the products that we sell, particularly down in Texas and Oklahoma, we were very proud to get our EcoVadis Gold sustainability rating as well. In 2020, we'd been silver the previous few years, but we did finally crest the gold target. And so in terms of where we get our rosemary from, we primarily grow it ourselves. We have our own varietal that is sustainable, that is resistant to drought, doesn't require much work. And you can see Lewis Needham on the left here in the cowboy hat, as you would expect in Texas. On our farm in our rosemary farm down in Texas, but we also source from Morocco, where rosemary, as you may know, grows wild, and it is harvested in a sustainable way by the Moroccan government. And Catherine Rouet, our sustainable sourcing manager, is pictured there in Morocco. So the challenge that is given to us by consumers and retailers is that consumers want great tasting products. They want ingredients that they can understand and read. They want as few E numbers as possible on their product, but yet they still want to have reduced waste as much as possible. That is pushed by governments, by stakeholders, by retailers, and by our needs going forward as a species. So this is the challenge: how to create clean label products with ingredients that customers recognize, maximize shelf life whilst also reducing food waste. Now, food waste has two primary components, I would argue, one of which is microbial spoilage, which is not something we're going to discuss regarding rosemary, but there is also a lot of spoilage coming about by oxidation. So you get decreased quality, you get decreased color, decreased flavor, off aromas, and in some cases textural changes, which can reduce the shelf life of the product on shelf and during the supply chain. You also potentially get negative consumer impressions. The product doesn't taste right, so the consumer doesn't eat it or throws away the rest of the pack, which yields up to food waste in the supply chain and food waste post-purchase by the consumer. That has an environmental impact, but also, let's be clear, it has a revenue cost. It has a cost to retailers and has a cost to consumers. And we believe that Kalsec antioxidants can help in that naturally. So I've talked about rosemary. Why rosemary as an antioxidant? Rosemary contains multiple polyphenolic compounds, some of which are extremely potent scavengers of free radicals that are generated in causing oxidation in food products. There's one here, one of the primary ones of the two. You've possibly heard of carnosic acid and carnosol. Carnosic acid is an extremely good donator of protons to mop up free radicals. But by doing that, it's sacrificial. It then doesn't become carnosic acid. It becomes a different antioxidant, in this case, quinone. One of the advantages of some of our products is we blend them together with other antioxidants, which can then regenerate the carnosic acid and then gives you a longer shelf life. It gives you a better effect, better bang for your buck, and it then allows you to have a longer shelf life or a better quality product at the end of your shelf life. In theory, becoming a more sustainable solution for a product by giving consumers better tasting products for longer with an ingredient that they can recognize. So this was the challenge. We think that our sustainably grown and sourced rosemary extracts are clean label because we think consumers know and can understand what rosemary is. They've got it in their kitchen cupboard at home. They can help maximize shelf life and optimize costs, and as a result also can reduce food waste throughout the food supply chain. So that was very quick. Sorry, I could come on for several hours, but I just thought I'd do it for 5 minutes. So thank you. Questions?
Great, thank you, Gareth. Tim, do you have any questions? Yeah, sure. Obviously, very interesting the way you grow this down in Texas, but I'm sort of interested in the whole Moroccan side of things, the wild grown. Obviously, there's a big argument against wild harvested herbs and the sustainability of that. What measures are taken to ensure that that wild harvested rosemary is sustainably harvested?
The Moroccan government restricts very carefully how much can be harvested at any one time. So they look at the total amount of wild rosemary that's available to harvest, and then they issue permits. And we cannot buy the rosemary needles without having the relevant permit and paperwork to follow that through. So it is very controlled, it is very structured. And to an extent, we grow a lot down in Texas and Oklahoma because it gives us more volume, because we can't switch volume on and off from Morocco very quickly, because it is controlled to make sure that the crop is still there going forward, that we do need to rely on both sources.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Victoria, do you have any questions?
I do. It's kind of a two-parter, if you don't mind, Gareth. So I'm very interested in antioxidants. We supply quite a lot of products that would benefit, certainly, I think. But I'm interested from your perspective. Where do you see these being best applied in the industry? And also, do you see any challenges with consumer perception of seeing rosemary on a product in an ingredient declaration that you might not expect to see in there?
Yes. On the second question, yes, I do see that as a concern. Consumers wouldn't expect to see it in dairy products, for example. Why have you got rosemary extract in that? So there is an issue with that potentially, yes. But I think in lots of savory applications where you could expect it, snacks, meat products, not so much in plant-based products, but in all those kind of areas, you can apply it and you gain a big effect. One of the areas that we're currently focusing on is on snacks. If you fry a snack, adding rosemary extract to the frying oil can give you extra frying time. The oil is more suitable for a longer period of time. That means you're having to dump your oil less frequently. So you don't have to use quite so much oil, or you can use less resistant frying oil. So there's a cost to that as well as a benefit. But yes, it's not a simple solution, but it is one that has value for the food industry, I think.
Absolutely. That bit about the oil is actually really interesting. Thank you.
Great. And Colin, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. Very interesting area. I mean, herbs and spices are part of my background, working with McCormick many years ago. It's good. I'm glad you focused on rosemary. I've seen that used a lot. Are there any other plant materials or plant origins of interest to Kalsec, or are there some emerging uses that we can expect to see in the future?
I mean, Kalsec was originally founded up with capsicum. So we grow capsicum down in Texas and Oklahoma. We are almost completely vertically integrated on capsicum. So that gives us lots of issues or benefits in terms of we get controlled quality, we get controlled sustainability, we don't have any pesticide issues. So that's not at all related to food protection, but it is in terms of what's an up and coming trend. People want more hot and spicy foods going forward, so that's part of it. And then we're working on all sorts of different applications I'm not going to reveal full details of, in new existing products, or existing products applied in new ways that might have antimicrobial or also antioxidant properties. Also, when they're available, I will let you know when they're to be marketed.
Great, thank you.